Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join me because we have a managerial departure to talk about. Hands up if you thought we were going to be talking about Derby changing their manager. Well, we're not, because we're going to be talking about Sheffield Wednesday changing their manager, or firing their manager at least, because last night, quite late actually, they announced the firing of Championship troubadour nomad Garry Monk. Out goes Monk from Sheffield Wednesday, not long after the 12-point deduction meted out for FFP infractions way back when was reduced to a 6-point deduction, and they scored 4 points in the last week. So interesting timing from Mr. Chansiri. I've given up trying to second guess Mr. Chansiri, but some idea that he felt maybe that with the extra 6 points and the 4-point week and the fact that I think the gap is now only 2 points to safety, that he feels a bit more confident to make a change, because he obviously wasn't happy with Monk, and Sheffield Wednesday will be in the market for a new manager. There is the roll of honour. Since Mr. Chansiri took over at Sheffield Wednesday, you can see there his first true love was Carlos Carvajal. We all know the story, don't we? That was when all the money went in, and that's really the legacy problem now. Big signings. I remember lots of strikers there, and Winnall and Hooper and Rhodes, and I'm probably missing Fletcher and Zhao and Forestieri all at once, I think. And they got to the playoff final, they lost. And then they got to the playoff semi-finals and they lost. And they've been regretting it ever since and chasing their tail, particularly financially, ever since. That has taken us through Josh Lahukai, which just didn't really work. The back end of one season, the front end of the other, but didn't go well at all. Out he goes. In comes the experienced Steve Bruce, who did a fine job results-wise, took Lahukai's struggling season and put them in the top half. But then Newcastle came calling, out he goes. And that left us with Lee Bullen at the start of the season, briefly last season. And then Garry Monk for some 58 games. Here is what has been said on the Wednesday website. Sheffield Wednesday have terminated the contracts of Garry Monk and his staff with immediate effect. So be under no illusions, no mutual consent, no resigning, no fluffy language. He's been fired. Monk joined the Owls in September 2019, 58 games. I feel the time is right, says Chansiri, to make a change and wish Gary's team all the best for the future. I'd like to thank you for the time and effort Garry and his staff have committed to Sheffield Wednesday Club. We'll be making no further comment. So maybe that does play into what I was saying. In respects of, if you can take that 10 points off, it's probably not the right time to make a change, is it? We're talking about the extra 6 points from the arbitration and the 4 points scored this week. We'll look in more detail on that in a second. So he feels more confident in the relegation chase now. And has he got his eye on someone? I wonder. We've been here before with Garry Monk, haven't we? Lots of fans of these clubs will no doubt comment on this video talking about maybe slightly sticky endings, slightly flouncing off a couple of times. That was Leeds. Look at that, 25th of May 2017. So Monk had been at Leeds. Radrizzani took over. And I don't know what happened there. It's like within 2 days, they couldn't agree on what they were doing going forward. I don't think anyone knows in what regard they couldn't agree, whether it was financial or recruitment or contractual or agents. Who knows? But it didn't work there. Leeds fans will be very happy because they had a year of Christensen and Heckingbottom and then got Bielsa. So there you go. So out he goes from Leeds. Middlesbrough was a bit weird, wasn't it? Took over that summer after Middlesbrough had come down, and he's out by the 23rd of December. And he spent a load of money, didn't he? Middlesbrough's year one parachute money was essentially spent by Garry Monk. But then Steve Gibson handed it off to Tony Pulis quite ruthlessly, actually, around that Christmas time. And feels similar to Gary Rowett at Stoke, doesn't it? Just didn't seem to fit there. Sacked at Blues, you can see there at Birmingham. Strange one there, because I felt he'd done a decent job at Birmingham. We'll talk about what he did. But look there had been talk that the Borough, Swansea and Leeds boss, Monk 40, would resign over the exit of Hotter to Villa. So again, I remember that happening and thinking, this is strange. Birmingham and Monk seems a good combination. And we heard about transfers and wanting to use the same agent. Obviously, I can't say too much about that. But yeah, just always a slightly ignominious, if I can use a sporty cliche word there, departure. And then we get to this one at Sheffield Wednesday. Is he actually any good is the question now, because it's one of these ones where you get this in the Championship where, what do the people call them, kind of guns for hire. I remember in the Premier League where it always used to be Pardew or Allardyce or Bruce or whoever. In the Championship, up until recently, it had always been McCarthy, Houghton, I suppose you had Pulis into that, Bruce as well. Feels like the new breed of that is now Gary Rowett and Garry Monk, although I suppose Gary Rowett is now seen with what he's doing at Millwall in a bit of a better regard. But that first season at Leeds, I think there was quite a good feeling there. He tidied them up. And it was, you can see at the end there, look, only 3 points in the last 5 games to miss out on the playoffs. And he got Chris Wood playing. And ultimately, if you're a Leeds fan, you do have to acknowledge the whole of the Radrizzani success started on a load of money coming in for Chris Wood. And he already had bought Pablo Hernandez there. So some good work done at Leeds. Left them in 7th. I wonder where they would have gone if he'd stayed. He does rescue Birmingham in the first season there. I can't remember who'd been there prior. Was that the season where they went mad? And I don't recall. And maybe it's the season Redknapp starts there and then it goes off to Cotterill. I don't recall. There have been so many managers at Birmingham. Anyway, what I do recall is going there to watch Ipswich, in fact. And Monk basically went 4-4-2 and got some results and got Birmingham out of trouble there. And then the next season is our first Monk with FFP season, where he's at Birmingham and again does a great job of developing Che Adams, but they really fall apart after they're given a 9-point deduction for FFP infractions. Nothing to do with Monk, those infractions, by the way, all on Trillian. But again, I thought he did a decent job with Jutkiewicz and Adams and Magoma and Hotter, which we mentioned, etc. But out he goes. Sheffield Wednesday last season was interesting to say the least, because I've written there post-December lull. He comes in a bit late. And if I remember correctly, they beat Bristol City at the start of December and were 3rd in the table. Ultimately, they end up finishing 16th. Some, and probably Monk, will argue that the news of an FFP charge around late winter, around that time when they were up high in the table, maybe the sword of Damocles hanging over the head of Wednesday. I don't know. Did that have an effect? They were charged. Obviously, we'll talk about when the actual deduction came down. But what we definitely have to say is that is the last 23 games. And this will really play into Chansiri's thinking, I think, here. Look, over the last half of the season, Sheffield Wednesday were essentially a relegation team. And half a season is a big sample size. Only Hull, who, remember, sold Bowen and Grzycki, were worse, the worst team in the league there. And over that period, maybe, yes, with the threat of FFP and the deduction, they'd done enough in the first half of the season to survive relegation, but a really awful second half of the season. And then, at the end of the season, we do get the 12-point deduction. Look, let's not go into all of this. Okay, 18, 19 stadium put into that year, then takes over a year's time to get the charge and the points deduction. Let's not get into that. That's not the issue today. The issue is Wednesday need a new manager. But remember, that 12 points would have relegated them if it had been deducted in the 1920 season. For the record, my issue with this is the EFL flagged the stadium sale through there. So I wonder why they wouldn't want it in the correct year, or have been looking at this maybe a little bit closer, and why it would have taken so long. But there we go. Let's not get into that. The 12 points, though, is reduced to 6 points. So essentially, you have a team that was in relegation form for half a season that's then deducted 12 points from the next season, but then 6 points is added back in. So that is very clear in Chansiri's thinking, isn't it? This season, they started well, actually. If you look, 8 points from the first 5 games. And it was very clear that there was one objective for Sheffield Wednesday this season. You're starting with minus 12. We'll talk about the minus 6 because at that point it hadn't been put back. You're starting with minus 12. There's one goal. Just get above the relegation line and get into next season. That is literally it. We saw what that deduction did for a pretty decent Wigan team managed by Paul Cook. I wonder if he'll get mentioned before the end of the video. We saw what that did to the Wigan team last season, and in the end it took them down. They looked like a mid-table team, but 12 points in a high-tide season as it was last season took them down. So I thought they'd started fairly well, and doing my points projections and everything, you're looking at probably 58 points to be scored over the 46 games, minus the 12 to hit 46, which is normally enough, especially this season when we think that the year one parachute teams, Norwich, Watford, Bournemouth, are all probably going to stretch out the league table and take a lot of points off the bottom sides. Just a theory. May or may not pan out that way. But that would be my summation of what they needed. And that 8 points from the first 5 games obviously would have put them on target for it. However, they then lose the next 4 games. They do then win the next 2, including a good win over one of those parachute teams, Bournemouth, indeed. But if you do look, there's a 4-game losing streak and also only 1 goal in the last 5 games for Sheffield Wednesday. And that is having brought in Windass and Kachunga and Patterson to do business up that end of the pitch. And Izzy Brown. Okay, Izzy Brown is Izzy Brown. He gets assist and he gets injured. That's what happens. But not a lot of goals. And if you run that whole period of, what have we got there? 11 games this season, and you actually add that back into there. So only 4 wins in 23 there. Add 11 on 34. Yes, 7 wins in 34. They're not in good form for a long time. And I keep talking about the timing and the fact that if you roll that back just 2 games, look down at the bottom there, Wednesday then have 2 points and take off the minus 6. They actually have minus 4 literally 2 games ago. So there's been a 10-point swing, which I'm persuading myself through this video. That 10-point swing has obviously convinced Chansiri. And we know international break number 2 is a graveyard for managers. Look, Lamucci and Struber didn't go through, for very different reasons, obviously, particularly with Struber. But, Barnsley and Forest have already gone in international break 1. And this is normally a graveyard. And so Chansiri acts with Sheffield Wednesday only 2 points from safety. Who's next? There are some names. We'll read from the bottom up. Gary Megson, ex-Wednesday player, hasn't done anything for a while. David Wagner has a championship promotion, unlikely one with Huddersfield on his CV, doesn't he? Carlos Carvajal, never go back. Lee Johnson, maybe. I'm sure he'll interview for this one, Streaky Lee, and he'll be terribly enthusiastic about everything. Still a young guy, managed a lot of games in the Championship. I suspect he will become one of those Championship lifers that we were talking about. So I expect he'll interview. Danny Cowley, Danny and Nicky Cowley. He's just been at Huddersfield. He'll be looking for another Championship job, won't he? Ryan Lowe, He's worked his way up in lower divisions, gets linked with this stuff. Eddie Howe is in there. I suspect he'll be hanging out for a Premier League job, but he might wait, and one might not come up. Let's see there. And then the top three, Nigel Pearson, obviously an ex-Sheffield Wednesday player, available and been working at Watford last season. And no nonsense. Is he the right guy there? Tony Pulis. We'll definitely get them organised, but since Stoke, where, to be fair, he did take them up and do a brilliant job up there as well. I don't know whether his work at Borough goes against him now, because he had parachute money at Borough and he had Traore and Sombalonga and a decent squad left over by Monk, ironically enough. But the top one there, obviously he's odds against for a reason, is Paul Cook. And Paul Cook just ticks loads of boxes, doesn't he? He's worked up in that area for a long while, most recently at Wigan. He's got a very good record, including Pompey beforehand. Was it Stockport, or is that who he played for? I can't quite remember. Someone will correct me, but definitely did a good job at Pompey. I think there's a promotion there. Then there's a promotion from League One with Wigan. And we've all said how good that Wigan team was actually last season. In fact, I wonder if I can just scroll back a few slides. Because look, there you go. Look in fourth place there in the second half of last season. Wigan, okay, there's an extra game, isn't there? 24, but there you go. My point stands. Wigan, whilst Sheffield Wednesday under Monk were being the 23rd best team in the league, Wigan were being the 4th best team in the league. Remember, that clicked as he went through, but that nice 4-2-3-1 with Marshall, who's gone to Derby now after the administration. Byrne has gone to Derby. Dunkley has actually gone to Sheffield Wednesday, hasn't he? The left-back Robinson, who was excellent, has gone to Fulham. Morsey has gone to Borough. Who's the lad that's gone to Bristol City? Morel. Jamal Lowe has gone to Swansea. Kiefer Moore's gone to Cardiff. Kieran Dowell's gone to Norwich. Have done the whole team. Been absolutely decimated, haven't they? But a good team that Paul Cook formed there. And all of those players I've just listed are all functioning absolutely fine in the Championship. We know if you stick them all together for half a season, they're the 4th best team in the league. So Paul Cook looks like the hot favourite there. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. First of all, why has Chansiri acted now? Do you agree it's a combination of the long, kind of poor results plus that 10 points in the last week? Is it a good call to do it now? Is it actually a smart decision by Chansiri? Do we need to give him credit? What do you think in terms of Monk now? Do you still rate him? Good work at Leeds, some good work at Birmingham. Maybe not so much at Sheffield Wednesday, but is the chaos with FFP a mitigating factor? I think he'll still get another Championship job, I have to say. I'm sure someone will offer him one. So we'll just see if he takes it at some point. Let me know your thoughts on Monk. And let me know who you'd want to see go in there. You can see on the betting there, Paul Cook. It makes some sense. He's available. But we don't know. We've seen Chansiri go for European guys in Carvajal and Lahukai. And then the staid Steve Bruce and Garry Monk. So he's gone 2 very different ways so far. Who do you think will be going in? There we go. This may not be the first managerial firing video of this international break, but I hope you enjoyed it, and let's get some reasoned and sensible debate going in the comments on what's happened at Wednesday and what you would see happening for Wednesday and for Monk. And please remember to leave your bias at the door when you are commenting. Thank you everybody for watching, and it's over and out for me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button, and to be notified every time we upload, ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.